Welcome to S2 TV. I'm Dr. Tiff, and we're going to start a series called Getting Ripped with Dr. Tiff. And the first episode here is really just going to cover how carbohydrates impact our blood sugar levels and how that whole process of the breakdown and utilization of carbs happens, and why there's a lot of information out there around fats and carb storage as that process takes place. So I've got a little diagram here, and I just want to start with the first piece of that being when we actually eat a meal. Okay, most meals have some level of carbohydrate component, and the higher the sugar content of that meal, the more it impacts our blood sugar. So if you sit down to an excessive portion of a highly processed high sugar meal, that blood sugar spike is more drastic and it takes place a lot more quickly. When that blood sugar increases, or that blood glucose level increases, it's the pancreas's job to release insulin. Insulin regulates blood sugar. So the more excessive and the higher sugar that carbohydrate intake is, the more insulin gets dumped into the system. And that insulin dump helps to bring the blood sugar down and back down to homeostasis, or its baseline level. So you can see here, food enters, okay, blood sugar potentially increases, and the level of that increase depends on what that meal was and how it was composed. And then the pancreas brings insulin into the picture. Okay, this is the next crucial step. Most people are sedentary the majority of the day. So these two storage tanks where we hold glycogen, or that excess carbohydrate, in our liver and our muscle, those fuel tanks, if they're full and insulin goes and knocks on that door and says, hey man, I got to put some glucose in here because our blood sugar's through the roof, if those two storage tanks are full and they get the big, hey dude, I'm full, got to push it into fat. So the third fuel tank outside of liver and muscle glycogen is fat storage. That's why people say, oh, if I eat too much carbs, it turns into fat. Well, that's not technically true, but the potential for fat storage when we eat an excess of high sugar, high glycemic carbohydrates is the potential to put it into the fat storage tank. Now, if you've just trained hard and muscle glycogen is depleted, or after sleep and you fasted for 6 to 12 hours and your body continues to deplete liver glycogen through the night and through that process of fasting, then you can get away with a little higher carb load, and there's room in these two storage tanks for insulin to deposit the excess blood sugar. So it's about timing, it's about spacing, and it's about the portions and the content of that food that you eat. So I don't want you to assume all carbohydrate creates fat storage. Okay? This is not what we teach at S2 Nutrition, and it's not what we believe to be the best way to view carbohydrates for performance. You just have to understand what they are, and you have to eat them in such a way that we regulate the blood sugar and insulin response, so we always make room to deposit it into the primary storage tanks to be used for exercise, energy, cognitive functioning, all those metabolic processes that are important to performance. So part one, how carbs are impacting blood sugar, insulin, and the potential for fat storage. And follow up with part two, we're going to talk about what we need to know to regulate those insulin levels and how to combine foods in the right way. Thanks, guys.